The distress beacon activated at 2:17 a.m., but the campsite it came from wasn't supposed to exist. I was on overnight duty at the ranger substation, handling radio checks and logging weather updates, when the alert came through. Automated, sharp, impossible to miss. It was tied to an emergency locator beacon, the kind serious hikers carry, but the coordinates didn't match any registered campsite or trail zone in our system. I checked twice. Nothing. No permit, no record, no prior activity. Just a blinking signal deep in a restricted section of the park that had been closed off for years due to unstable ground and a collapsed fire road. I called it into dispatch. They confirmed the signal but had no additional data. No name, no registration ID, nothing tied to the beacon. That alone was unusual. Most of these devices are registered to an owner. This one wasn't. I grabbed my gear, logged my departure, and headed out. The air was cold, still, with a low fog settling in the lower elevations. Visibility wasn't great, but manageable. The access road to that section had been gated for over a decade, but the lock was cut, clean cut, recent. I noted it and continued on foot. The path beyond the gate was overgrown, barely recognizable, but I could still make out the old road beneath the brush. About half a mile in, my radio started to glitch. Out full static, just intermittent bursts of noise between transmissions. I tried to check in. Dispatch responded, but their voice came through distorted, like it was being filtered through something. I kept moving. The beacon signal grew stronger as I approached the coordinates. Then I saw the light. A faint, steady pulse through the trees. Not bright, but consistent. I moved toward it. The terrain dipped into a shallow basin, and that's where I found the campsite. It was wrong. That's the only way to describe it. Not just because it wasn't supposed to be there, but because it looked staged. 3 tents, all identical, set up in a perfect triangle, a fire pit in the center, cold, with neatly stacked wood beside it. No signs of recent use. No footprints around the tents. No gear scattered. Everything was too clean, too organized. The beacon was sitting on a flat rock in the middle of the triangle, blinking steadily. I approached slowly, called out. No response. I checked the tents one by one. Empty. No sleeping bags, no personal items, just bare interiors, like they'd been set up and never used. I pick up the beacon. It was active, but the casing was scratched, worn. Not new. I checked for a serial number. It had been scratched off. I felt a knot in my stomach. I radioed it in. This time, no response. Just static. Then, faintly, I heard something else through the noise. A voice. Male. Saying, "You are early." I froze. Looked around. Nothing. Just trees and fog. I tried the radio again. Nothing. I stepped back from the campsite, scanning the area. That's when I noticed the footprints. They weren't near the tents. They were just outside the clearing, partially hidden in the brush. 3 sets, leading away from the campsite, deeper into the restricted zone. And then a 4th set, circling the perimeter of the clearing, not entering, just walking around it, over and over. I followed the 3 sets. They were fresh. Edges still sharp in the soft ground. The path they took didn't follow any trail. It cut straight through dense brush and uneven terrain. I marked my direction, checked my compass, and kept moving. The fog thickened as I went deeper. Visibility dropped to maybe 20 feet. Sounds were muffled. Even my own footsteps felt distant. About 10 minutes in, I found the first item. A boot. Just one. Lying on its side, laces undone. No blood, no sign of a struggle. I called out again. No answer. I kept going. The footprints started to stagger. One set veered off slightly, then corrected. Another showed signs of dragging, like the person was limping. The third remained steady. The 4th set, still there. Always just outside the others, never overlapping. I started to hear something. A low hum, not mechanical, not natural either. Just a constant, faint vibration in the air. It made it hard to focus. I shook it off and pushed forward. The terrain sloped upward into a narrow ridge. As I climbed, The fog thinned slightly. That's when I saw movement ahead. A figure, maybe 30 yards out, walking slowly along the ridge. I called out. The figure stopped, turned slightly, but I couldn't see a face, just a silhouette. I moved closer. The figure stepped off the ridge and disappeared down the other side. I reached the spot seconds later, looked down, nothing. No movement, no sound, just the slope and the trees below. I descended carefully. At the bottom, I found the second hiker. He was sitting against a tree, head in his hands, alive but shaken. I approached, identified myself. He looked up slowly, eyes wide. I asked what happened. He said they found the campsite already set up, thought it was abandoned, decided to stay. I asked about the beacon. He said it was already there, already active. I asked why they didn't leave. He hesitated, then said they tried, but every time they walked away, they ended up back at the campsite. I felt a chill. I asked about the others. He pointed uphill, said one went to get help, the other followed the voice. I asked what voice. He looked at me like I should already know, said it sounded like someone calling from just beyond the trees, always just out of sight. I helped him stand, told him we needed to move. He nodded, but kept glancing around like he expected something to appear. We started back the way I came. The footprints were still there, still fresh, but something was off. The fourth set had changed. They were closer now, no longer circling. Now they were walking alongside the others, matching pace. I didn't like that. We moved faster. As we climbed back up the ridge, the hum grew louder, more noticeable. The hiker covered his ears, said it was worse now. I didn't hear it as strongly, but I felt it, like pressure building. At the top, we found the third hiker. He was standing near a tree, back turned, completely still. I called out, no response. I approached slowly. When I got close, I saw he was holding something, a small radio, old model, not park issued. It was on, and from it, I could hear the voice. Same one from earlier, calm, repeating, return to camp, return to camp, over and over. I took the radio from his hand. He didn't resist, just kept staring ahead. I asked where he got it. He said it was hanging from a branch. I looked at the tree, nothing there now. I turned the radio off. The hum stopped instantly. The air felt normal again. I looked at the ground. The fourth set of footprints had stopped. Right behind us, no continuation, no sign of where they went, just ended. I didn't wait. I got both hikers moving. We retraced our path as quickly as possible. The fog started to lift as we got closer to the gate. My radio came back online. Dispatch responded immediately, said they'd been trying to reach me for over an hour. I gave them a quick update, told them we were heading out. When we reached the clearing near the gate, I stopped. The campsite was gone. No tents, no beacon. Just empty ground, like it had never been there. The hikers saw it too. One of them started shaking. I checked the area. No footprints, not even ours from earlier. Just untouched dirt and brush. We made it back to the station just before sunrise. I logged everything, filed the report. Search teams went out later that day. They found nothing. No campsite, no beacon, no signs of anyone being there. The area was marked as undisturbed. But here's the part that still doesn't sit right with me. When I reviewed my body cam footage later, the entire section where I found the campsite was corrupted, just static and audio distortion. Except for one clear moment, right at the beginning, when I first stepped into the clearing. You can hear me say, "This wasn't here before." And then, faintly, behind me, a voice responds, "It was." The trail camera captured them leaving the path, but there was already someone waiting where they were going. I didn't notice it at first. It was just another routine review at the ranger station, going through footage from the outer cameras along the less used routes. We check them every few days, mostly for wildlife tracking, sometimes for lost hikers. That morning, I had a full list, but one clip kept pulling my attention back. 3 hikers, mid-20s, looked prepared. Decent gear, steady pace. They passed camera 14 at 11:42 a.m., heading west along the marked trail. Nothing unusual. Except 10 seconds after they passed, a 4th figure stepped into frame from the opposite direction. He stopped right where they'd been walking, didn't follow immediately, just stood there, watching the direction they went. Then the clip cut. I rewound it 3 times. Same thing. The figure wore a dark jacket, hood up, face completely obscured. No visible pack, no visible gear. That alone was off. Anyone that deep usually carries something. I checked the next camera down the line. Camera 15. It should have picked all 4 of them up, but it didn't. It only showed the 3 hikers again. No sign of the 4th. That gap between cameras is about half a mile. No alternate paths. No way to bypass it without cutting through thick brush and uneven terrain. I flagged it, noted the time, and checked the trail log. 3 hikers had signed in that morning. Same time window, same direction. No mention of a 4th person. I asked around. Nobody had seen anyone matching that description at the trailhead. No vehicle either. That bothered me more than it should have. People slip through unnoticed all the time. But something about the way he stood there, it didn't feel like someone deciding to follow. It felt like someone waiting. I grabbed my gear and headed out. The weather was shifting, low clouds rolling in, wind picking up. Not dangerous yet, but enough to make things uncomfortable if you were unprepared. I reached camera 14 around noon, checked the area. Ground was dry, but I could still make out partial prints. 3 clear sets heading west, and then, just behind them, a 4th. Lighter, shallower, like whoever made them was stepping carefully. I followed the trail. It was quiet, too quiet. No birds, no insects, just wind moving through the trees. About 15 minutes in, I found something. A water bottle, still cold, dropped just off the path. I called out. No response. I checked the surrounding area. No signs of a struggle. Just that same 4th set of prints, still trailing behind the others. I radioed it in. Dispatch acknowledged, told me to proceed with caution. Standard protocol. I kept moving. The trail started to narrow, then split into an unofficial fork, one marked, one not. The 3 sets of prints took the unmarked path. That alone was a red flag. There's no signage there. No reason to go that way unless you knew about it, or were led. I followed. The terrain got rougher, uneven ground, loose branches, tighter tree coverage. Visibility dropped. I started hearing things, subtle at first, a branch snapping somewhere off to my right, then footsteps, not matching mine, always just a second out of sync. I stopped, listened, silence. Then a faint rustle behind me. I turned, nothing. I told myself it was animals. It usually is, but it didn't feel like animals. I moved faster. About 20 minutes in, I found the 1st hiker. He was standing in the middle of a clearing, facing away from me. No pack, arms hanging at his sides. I called out. He didn't respond. I approached slowly. When I got closer, I noticed something off. His posture, too still, too rigid. I stepped around him. His eyes were open, but unfocused, like he was staring through everything. I asked if he was okay. He blinked once, then said, "He told us this was the shortcut." I asked who. He didn't answer, just kept staring. I checked him for injuries. Nothing obvious. Pulse steady, breathing normal. But mentally, something wasn't right. I asked where the others were. He pointed deeper into the trees, same direction as the prints. I told him to stay put. He didn't argue, just stayed there, unmoving. I continued on. The prints were harder to follow now. Ground was covered in leaves and debris, but I could still make out the general direction. And that 4th set, still there, always just behind the others. I started to notice something else. The spacing between the prints was changing. The three hikers' steps were getting longer, more erratic, like they were moving faster, or running. The fourth set stayed consistent, measured, controlled. That's when I heard voices. Faint. Ahead. I moved toward them. The trees thinned slightly, opening into a narrow ridge. That's where I found the second hiker. She was crouched near the edge, breathing hard, looking over her shoulder every few seconds. When she saw me, she flinched. Actually flinched. Like she wasn't sure who I was. I identified myself, showed my badge. She relaxed slightly but kept glancing behind me. I asked what happened. She said they met a man on the trail, said he told them about a faster route back to the parking area. Claimed he was a ranger. I asked for a description. She hesitated, then said she never saw his face clearly. Hood up, always a few steps ahead. I felt a knot tighten in my chest. I asked where the third hiker was. She pointed down the slope. Said he followed the man further. Said she stopped when things started to feel wrong. I asked what she meant. She said the man never made noise when he walked. Not on leaves, not on gravel, nothing. I looked down the slope. Steep, dense, brush, no clear path. I told her to stay with me. We'd go find the third and head back together. She nodded. We started down. The descent was slow, careful. I kept scanning the area. Every shadow felt like movement. Every sound felt delayed. About halfway down, we found the third hiker's pack, torn open, contents scattered. No sign of him. I called out, no answer. The woman behind me whispered, "He's still here." I turned, asked what she meant. She pointed to the ground, fresh prints. Just one set now, leading away from the pack. I followed them. They led into a narrow corridor between two rock formations, tight space, limited visibility. I hesitated, then heard something. A voice, male, calm, saying, "This way." It came from inside the corridor. I stepped in. The woman stayed close behind me. The air felt different in there, still, heavy. The prints continued, then stopped abruptly near a bend. I rounded it slowly. And there he was, the fourth figure. Standing about 20 feet ahead, back to us. Same dark jacket, hood up, no movement. I called out. He didn't respond. I took a step forward. He took one too. Same distance, same pace, like he was mirroring me. I stopped. So did he. I asked where the third hiker was. No answer, just silence. Then, slowly, he raised his arm and pointed deeper into the rocks. I didn't move. Something about it felt wrong. Too controlled, too deliberate. The woman behind me whispered, "That's him." I asked again, louder this time. No response. Then, without warning, he stepped sideways into a narrow gap between the rocks and disappeared. Just gone. No sound, no movement. I rushed forward, checked the gap. It was barely wide enough to squeeze through. I forced my way in. On the other side, nothing. Just more rock. No path. No footprints. No sign anyone had passed through. I backed out slowly, heart pounding. The woman was gone. I spun around. Called her name. No answer. I ran back up the slope, reached the ridge. Empty. The first hiker was still in the clearing, still standing. Same position, same blank stare. I grabbed him, tried to snap him out of it. He finally blinked and looked at me. I asked where the others were. He said, they followed him. I asked who. He said, the ranger. I didn't argue. I got him moving. We made our way back to the main trail as fast as we could. I kept checking behind us. Every few seconds. I never saw anyone, but I kept hearing that same second set of footsteps, always just out of sync. We reached the trailhead just before dark. The parking lot was open. No cars, no signs of anyone else. I checked the logbook. The entry for the 3 hikers was gone, like it had never been written. I called it in. Search teams went out that night, covered the entire area. They found the pack, The water bottle. Nothing else. No bodies. No tracks. No sign of the fourth figure. Official report listed it as a missing persons case, unresolved. But here's the part that still doesn't sit right with me. The next morning, I reviewed the trail cameras again. Camera 14 showed the 3 hikers entering the trail. Same as before, but this time, when I watched the clip carefully, there was no fourth figure stepping into frame after them. It was just empty trail. And yet, the footprints we followed, the voice we heard, the man we saw, all of it led them off that path. And sometimes I still think about what the second hiker said, about how he never made a sound when he walked, because when I replay that footage now, I realize something else. The camera never picked up any audio at all, but I still remember hearing footsteps behind them. The emergency call came from a number that didn't exist, but it knew my name. I was halfway through a routine patrol when the radio cracked alive with a woman's voice, calm but rushed, asking for Ranger Ellis and repeating coordinates that weren't on any official trail map. I told dispatch, but they said no call had come through their system and nobody had logged anything. Still, the coordinates were precise, and something about the way she said them felt rehearsed, like she expected me to recognize them. I didn't, but I wrote them down anyway. It was late October, dry air, cold wind, visibility dropping early with the shorter days. I checked the trail log at the station before heading out. 3 hikers had signed in that morning, names I didn't recognize, but that wasn't unusual. What caught my eye was their planned route. It didn't match the coordinates, not even close. I grabbed my pack, double-checked my sidearm, and headed out in the truck. The coordinates led toward an unofficial ridgeline east of the marked trails, an area we didn't encourage visitors to explore. Too many loose rock faces and dead zones for radio. About 20 minutes in, my signal dropped to static. That wasn't unusual out there, but then it came back for just a second, long enough for me to hear the same woman's voice again, quieter this time, saying, "They're already off trail." Then silence. I stopped the truck, sat there with the engine idling. No wind, no birds, just that empty quiet you get when something feels off. I drove another mile before the road ended at a narrow clearing. That's when I saw the car. It was a dark blue sedan, parked crooked like it had been left in a hurry. No plates, windows slightly open. I checked inside. Back seat had 2 hiking packs, one unzipped, with a map folded wrong and a half-eaten protein bar melted into the wrapper. The glove compartment was open, but empty. No registration, no papers. That alone was strange. Most people don't strip their cars before a hike. I called it in, but again, nothing came back. Dispatch said my signal was breaking up. I stepped away from the truck, trying to get better reception, and that's when I noticed the footprints. 3 sets, heading into the brush, but they weren't following any path. They cut straight uphill, through thick brush and loose stone. No one familiar with the area would choose that route. I followed them. The terrain got worse fast. Sharp inclines, unstable footing, and the kind of silence that makes you hyper-aware of every sound you make. About 15 minutes in, I found the first dropped item. A flashlight, still on, lying sideways in the dirt like it had been tossed. The batteries were fresh. I picked it up and called out. No answer, just wind moving through the trees. I kept going. The footprints started to change. At first, they were close and light, together like the hikers were staying grouped. Then they spread out. One set veered left, another right. The third kept going straight. I stopped. That's when I realized something else. There was a 4th set of prints. They were faint, almost like someone was trying not to leave a trail. They followed behind the others, always a few steps back. I hadn't seen them near the car. I checked my radio again. Static. I tried to mark my position with GPS, but the signal was weak. I made a note in my field log instead. Time, location, direction of travel, standard procedure. I chose to follow the straight path. It was the freshest. The ground was still soft from a night before, and the impressions were clear. About 10 minutes later, I heard something. Not loud, just a faint crunch, like someone stepping on gravel. I stopped, listened. Nothing. Then it came again, behind me this time. I turned around fast. No one there, just trees and shadows. I told myself it was an echo. Sound Harry's weird out there. Still, I picked up my pace. The trail, if you could call it that, led to a narrow ridge. On the other side, a steep drop into a dry ravine. That's where I found the second hiker. He was sitting against a rock, breathing hard, eyes wide. Didn't look injured, just shaken. I approached slowly, announced myself. He didn't respond at first, just stared past me. I asked his name. He blinked, then said it like he was remembering it for the first time. Time. I asked where the others were. He pointed down into the ravine but didn't look, said they went down there after they heard someone calling for help. I asked who. He shook his head, said he didn't know, said it sounded like a woman. I felt my chest tighten. I asked if he had a radio or phone. He said his phone died, and the other two had the only working one. I gave him water, told him to stay put, and started down into the ravine. The descent was rough. Loose gravel, sharp drops. I had to move slow. About halfway down, I saw movement. A figure climbing up the opposite side. I called out, no response. I waved. The figure stopped, then turned and disappeared behind a rock. I picked up speed. When I reached the bottom, I found the second hiker. She was lying on her side, conscious but disoriented. Said she slipped. I checked for injuries. Minor cuts, maybe a sprained ankle. I asked about the third. She pointed up the slope. Said he went after the voice. I asked what voice. She hesitated, then said it sounded like someone from the trailhead, calling their names. That didn't make sense, or miles from the trailhead. I helped her sit up, gave her water, and tried my radio again. Still nothing. Then, faintly, I heard it. A voice, calling from somewhere above us. It said my name, clear as day. I froze. The hiker looked at me, confused, said she heard it too. I told her to stay put, and started climbing towards sight. The slope was steep, and the light was fading fast. I moved as quickly as I could without risking a fall. The voice came again, closer now. It sounded exactly like the woman from the radio. Same tone, same cadence, repeating coordinates. I reached the top and found the third hiker standing near the edge of a cliff. He was facing away from me, looking down. I called out. He didn't move. I approached slowly. When I got close, I saw he was holding a phone. Screen cracked, but still on. The speaker was active, and from it, I could hear the voice, repeating the same message, over and over. I took the phone from his hand. He didn't resist, just kept staring down. I looked at the screen. No signal. No call in progress. Just a recording. I scrolled through the files. There were dozens, all labeled with timestamps from that same day. All recordings of the same voice, saying slightly different things. Coordinates, names, directions. I felt a chill run through me. I asked him where he got it. He said it was already playing when he found it on the ground. Said it led them off the trail. I looked around, no one else in sight, just trees and fading light. I told him we needed to regroup and get back before dark. He nodded slowly. We made our way back down to the ravine, helped the second hiker up, and started toward the ridge where I left the first. The whole time, I kept hearing things, footsteps that didn't match ours, branches moving when there was no wind. At one point, I swear I saw someone walking parallel to us, just beyond the tree line, but every time I looked directly, there was nothing. We reached the ridge just as the last light was fading. The first hiker was gone. I checked the area. No signs of struggle, just his pack, still where I left it. I called out, no answer. The other two looked at me, panic starting to set in. I told them to stay close. We needed to get back to the truck. The descent was slow and tense. Every sound felt amplified. Every shadow looked like movement. When we finally reached the clearing, I felt a brief sense of relief, but it didn't last. The car was gone. The spot where it had been was empty. No tire tracks, no debris, just bare ground. I stared at it, trying to make sense of it. The hikers swore it was the same place. I checked my notes. Coordinates matched. I tried my radio again. This time it worked. Clear signal. I called dispatch, reported everything. They said they were sending a team, told me to stay put. I looked at the hikers. One was crying. The other just kept looking at the tree line. That's when my radio crackled again. The same voice. Calm. Familiar. It said, "You've already checked out." I froze. I looked at my field log. The last entry I had written earlier, it was gone. In its place was a new line. Same handwriting, same pen. Logged out, time-stamped, 10 minutes ago. I hadn't written it. I hadn't left. I looked up slowly. The tree line was still, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something had followed us back, and it was already ahead of us.